Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Coming up tonight on Our News, shantytown residents on Abaco appeal to the UN for help. The first direct flight from the UK to the Bahamas in over a year touches down. And 3 new Supreme Court justices take the oath of office. Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, British Airways has resumed direct flights from the UK to the Bahamas today after suspending the service in March 2020. The tourism minister calling it a sign of the world slowly reopening. Kyle Joaquin reports.
Nearly a full flight of over 200 passengers were on board British Airways' first direct flight from the UK to the Bahamas in over a year.
Because a lot of Bahamians were frustrated by the fact that they really couldn't get from Europe, and nor could visitors get from Europe to the Bahamas.
It comes as COVID-19 vaccines become more accessible worldwide after a tumultuous year.
Luckily for us, the countries for which most of our foreign visitors originate, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, they seem to have gotten on top of this coronavirus and had a very successful vaccine rollout, especially the United States and the United Kingdom. Right. And so as people become vaccinated, so too are they emboldened to travel. They want to travel. They want to go to warm weather destinations. They just want to go on vacation.
For most Bahamians is important is most Bahamians don't need visas to visit the UK. You do need a visa if you're studying or working. And at the moment, we're not able to issue visas here, so you'd have to sort out your visas via gov.uk and by some other means. But most Bahamians for short stays don't need that.
Despite having over 55,000 people already received their first dose of the vaccine, the Bahamas remains in a third wave of cases. British High Commissioner to the Bahamas, Sarah Dickinson, told Our News that as the Bahamas, like many other countries, remains on the UK's amber list, COVID-19 testing is required prior to travel and once you arrive in the UK.
You need a negative test, like most countries. You need to fill in a passenger locator form, again, like most countries. And if you're staying in the UK rather than just transiting, you do have to self-isolate for 10 days. And take tests on day 2 and day 8.
So it is very stringent. If you are vaccinated, they have exemptions for the testing, at least the post-arrival testing, but that PCR is required no matter what.
British Airways manager Krishna Roll Johnson says for now the flights will be once a week with 275 seats available. However, that could increase depending on COVID numbers and demand.
But it's going to be a different dynamic because we are detagged from Grand Cayman, so it is our direct service, and we're excited to see how that is going to play out, particularly throughout the summer flying period.
Now, again, those direct flights will only be weekly for now, but again, the tourism minister says it is at least a start. Reporting from LPIA for Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, a delegation of United Nations officials traveled to Abaco over the weekend to tour shantytowns on that island. During that visit, a letter from displaced victims of Hurricane Dorian on Abaco was presented to UN officials. Giorgio Bain reports.
Welcome to my home. Nice to see you. Good to see you. How are you doing? Oh, great. Very good.
Foreign Affairs Minister and Member of Parliament for North Abaco, Darren Henfield, welcomed the United Nations delegation as they arrived in Abaco over the weekend. United Nations resident coordinator to the Bahamas, Dr. Gary Conneal, spoke with residents in the shantytown who decided to rebuild.
I come live in the wherever. I just build that. I won't pay my bill, that's all. So anytime you gotta work it, just work it. That's it.
As they entered the shantytowns, members of the Human Rights Bahamas lined the entrance with placards that read, "From Dorian to homeless, where is your heart?" and "No shelters in Abaco, we have nowhere to go."
We emphasize that this is not about migration, this is not about illegality, this is about saving lives. And we didn't have the kind of cooperation that we thought.
Conneal calling the meeting with the government officials excellent as they sat and discussed how to enforce preparedness and response to issues such as Hurricane Dorian, as well as dealing with the issue of migrants and displacement.
How do we deal with populations that may be in very vulnerable circumstances? How do we address moving them in their own interest and that of the community while still preserving their human rights and making sure that they're treated with dignity?
According to the UNRC, contrary to popular belief, this trip was not to get the government to stop the demolition of shantytowns, but to ensure that human rights obligations were not being violated.
So the issue is not to stop or not to stop. This issue is being litigated by the courts, and we let it litigate with the courts. The issue is how do we work with the government and different stakeholders to ensure that whatever solution comes out of it, the fundamental human rights of people, the fundamental dignity of people is always respected.
A letter from displaced victims of Hurricane Dorian in Abaco, dated May 29, 2021, was reportedly given to members of the UN delegation during Saturday's tour. In the letter, residents claim the recent demolition exercise left 40 people, including 10 children, without homes, and if the government proceeds with its plans, up to 1,000 persons will be displaced in further demolition exercises. Among them will be hundreds of children, many with disabilities who will suffer severely if deprived from shelter. According to Conneal, it's the UN's advice to let the matter play out in court, but the aim was to make sure that no one is being left behind.
I found a very positive response and a very positive commitment from government.
Reporting for R News, I'm Georgie O'Bain.
Chief Justice Sir Brian Moree says he hopes the appointment of new justices will help to alleviate the congestion in the courts. His comments came as 3 of 5 new Supreme Court justices took the oath of allegiance and judicial oath this morning. Jasmine Brown reports.
The Chief Justice, who was present for each of those new justices taking the oath of office, says he hopes that their appointments will go towards clamping down on a substantial case backlog.
There has been a backlog of cases, and that, of course, was compounded by the public emergency. And so we now have a larger backlog that we have to deal with, in addition to all of the new cases.
The COVID-19 pandemic has caused a significant backlog, with criminal jury trials adding to the already lengthy list of stalled cases. When asked how bad the backlog has gotten, the Chief Justice said this.
On the criminal side, the backlog is probably somewhere between 12 and 18 months. Now, exceptionally, there may be some cases which run a little longer than that waiting for trial, but we hope to address that with these new appointments. On the civil side and the commercial side and the family side, the backlog is running somewhere between 9 and 18 months.
Moree made the comments after 3 new Supreme Court justices took their oaths on Monday morning. They include Justices Juanita Denise Lewis-Johnson, Janine Weish-Gomez, and Andrew Forbes. The CJ says Forbes will hear criminal cases on Grand Bahama and Weish-Gomez will hear criminal cases in New Providence, while Lewis-Johnson will hear family and civil division cases.
Given that there hasn't been any trials taking place for at least the last 6 months, that I'll be able to hit the ground running because I've done it before, and a little energetic. I'm hopeful that I'll be able to bring some of those matters that have been languishing for the last 6 months up to date.
I'm going on the criminal bench, certainly initially, and I look forward to that. I trust that I could make a dent and assist in the backlog that we've had prior to COVID and then with COVID. So I look forward to the challenge.
I intend to serve with honor and integrity and to do my country proud, do the citizens of the country and all persons who appear before me with justice and fairness.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
A 35-year-old father was gunned down near his Lincoln Boulevard home last night. His family is now calling for justice. Jared Higgs has the details.
According to police, officers were called to number 23 Washington Street at around 11 p.m. Sunday when a man was found with gunshot injuries. Neighbors told police they heard the sound of gunshots, then found the victim lying on the ground outside. The victim is 35-year-old Alfred Lightbourne Jr., according to his older sister.
I don't know the reason why they killed him.
Family members say Lightbourne Jr. was walking on Padolio Street through Washington Street to his house just off Lincoln Boulevard. When he was attacked, he ended up getting shot in the back and in his head. Lightbourne's grieving family described him as a quiet person who didn't trouble other people. They say he was the father of a 3-year-old girl who brought out his loving side.
He was very good to her. Make sure she was straight. He was very good to her. He didn't love her damn.
We interviewed Lightbourne's family just outside their home and just feet away from where his body was found. His sister didn't want her face shown as his father stood nearby in the doorway. She says her brother's biggest challenge was finding work, a problem he solved by starting to work construction with a friend.
Only when the pandemic was in, he wasn't, working like that. But after this year came in, he started to go with him to do construction, and he was there ever since, up to the time till they killed him.
Meanwhile, inside the home the pair grew up in, old photos bring back memories.
We used to fight a lot, but other than that, he was a good brother.
As cars whisked by, Lightbourne's sister made this plea.
We just want justice for our brother, because, like I say, he never did nothing to nobody. He used to stay to himself, from home to work to home, or with his little girl.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Now, we saw some rain in the capital today. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Thanks, Christina, and a happy Monday evening, everybody. We got some action started across the islands today as showers and thunderstorms popped up. We are warm and muggy this evening under partly cloudy skies, but some showers and isolated thunderstorms still around you. Winds are out of the southeast, bringing in those tropical air mass, 7 knots, and your feel-like temperature still in the mid to upper 70s. Satellite view, we got some action across the northwest Bahamas, portions of the central Bahamas today. Showers and thunderstorms popping up, that tropical moisture in place, and that's going to continue to be the trend throughout the rest of the evening and into tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, Atlantis workers will soon foot the bill for their rapid antigen tests. Plus, Pinewood residents react to plans to fix drainage issues. Stay with us.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the R News Bahamas page.
Effective September 1st, all Atlantis employees who are not fully vaccinated must foot the weekly bill for their rapid antigen testing. The resort's Human Resources Department informed employees of the decision over the weekend. The letter read, "Those who are not fully vaccinated and are continuing to test weekly with the COVID-19 rapid antigen test to gain access to the property will be responsible for paying for their own test at Doctors Hospital." Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar says Atlantis is simply living up to its duty to provide a safe environment.
The curfews remain, the restrictions remain. It's annoying. So we're ready. We're ready to move on to the next stage of our life. We're tired of this. And the path to that is getting vaccinated. So, I think every business, everyone is ready to move on. And the path that has been laid out for that is to get vaccinated.
However, the resort's announcement isn't sitting well with President of the Bahamas Hotel Catering and Allied Workers Union, Darren Woods.
You see this as an attempt to kind of force people to actually take the vaccination. And they would be following, I guess. The government has also relaxed certain restrictions on persons who have been fully vaccinated. But our position on it has not changed. It's still a personal decision for anyone who wants to take the vaccine to take it. And if they're being forced by the employer, then if something happens, then they should be held liable if something happens to the employee.
De Aguilar says while getting vaccinated is voluntary, he thinks it's the best thing to do, especially for those in the hospitality industry. Well, the Minnesota administration's $4 million allocation for the installation and repair of drains for the Pinewood area getting mixed reaction from residents. While some welcome the news, others weren't impressed. Berthany McDermott reports.
After decades of failed promises to address the issue of flooding in the Pinewood area, some residents weren't too impressed by the Prime Minister's announcement that millions have been allocated in this new budget to address the matter.
I'm not excited. If they do it, fine. If they don't, I'm used to being here for 30 years. It doesn't matter. 35 years. And we've been dealing with it. I'm 66. I've heard a lot of promises over the years. So it doesn't matter to me what they say. I'm not depending on what the Prime Minister, the person who runs in the area, it doesn't matter.
The area has long been plagued with flooding during hurricanes and heavy rainfall. During his budget communication last week, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced his government's commitment to set aside $4 million to repair and install proper drainage in Pinewood Gardens. However, some called it an election ploy.
So I know that everybody make promises before the election, and after the election it's forgotten. So it doesn't matter.
I think it's an election stunt. Because from Careless Road, been in this area, he come look at the drain. Reuben came in, and they look at the drain. This is a political scam to get elected again.
But not everyone shared the same sentiment. Others called it welcomed good news and expressed confidence in the Minnis administration to get the job done.
Well, I think it's a good thing. Before years and years, we have been bombarded with this flooding, and no government has done anything for us. So I think it's good.
I feel good. Yeah, because we need drain in Pinewood. Because further down the road, flood right out when rain.
Excellent. It was a long time coming. We needed a long time ago.
Despite the mixed reactions, we asked them if they're optimistic the age-old problem will be fixed this time around.
I have no confidence in Jesus. So my only confidence is in Jesus.
I have my confidence in them.
Well, hopefully. I'm really wishing that it could happen, And as long as it can happen, I'll feel good.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
Still to come, the PLP leader says September is too soon to stop unemployment assistance. Plus, a scorching hot performance by DeAndre Ayton and the Suns. The details when our news returns.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the R News Bahamas page.
This is our news. Welcome back. Progressive Liberal Party leader Philip Davis is responding to the recent revelation that government's unemployment assistance program, started during the pandemic, is set to end in September. Davis says he believes that's too soon.
Consideration to end the assistance or not to even enter the thoughts of anyone's mind at this time until they understand when the pandemic and crisis will end. So unless you have an idea of that, that is to be the deciding factor and the operating factor as to when we should put an end to the assistance from the government.
Through the program, individuals impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic receive weekly payments from the government through NIB. The program gives additional support to individuals who've already received the legal limit of 13 weeks of unemployment benefits from NIB. Davis insists it's clear the pandemic won't end anytime soon.
Consideration to end the assistance or not to even enter the thoughts of anyone's mind at this time until they understand when the pandemic and crisis will end. So unless you have an idea of that, that is to be the deciding factor and the operating factor as to when
we should put an end to the assistance from the government.
Acting Financial Marlon Johnson has said those still unemployed by September will receive assistance from the Department of Social Services. And in sports, Jonquil Jones dominates in a loss as DeAndre Ayton leads the Suns to a big win versus the Lakers. Marcellus Hall has the highlights.
All right, thanks a lot, and welcome to our Sports on a Monday, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Tell you what, it has certainly been interesting. Local sports has kind of been on a bit of a standstill, but we do have a number of Bahamians playing in international high-level elite sports. Those include Jonquil Jones, whom you see behind me, and DeAndre Ayton, both in action yesterday in their respective divisions. DeAndre, again, with the Phoenix Suns. We'll tell you about him in a second. But first, let's look at Jonquil Jones. She and the Connecticut Sun just getting their season started. And so far, they're looking pretty good. Let's take a look at their game yesterday. Jonquil Jones and her Connecticut Sun playing the Minnesota Lynx yesterday. For the Sun, it would be a tough outing. They took only their second loss of the season. Both of those losses have come by overtime. This time going down 79-74. Jones continuing her dominant play. She led the Sun in scoring with 22 points on 8 of 16 shooting. She would add 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal and a block. Connecticut now 6-2 on the air. They're first in the Eastern Conference with the next game on Tuesday against the Las Vegas Aces. DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns, they played the Lakers yesterday in playoff action. Suns looking to even their best of 7 series. And guess what? They would get the job done, outlasting LA 100-92. DeAndre 14 points, 17 rebounds, 2 steals and a block in this game. Suns reclaiming a home court advantage with the victory. Series now shifts back to Phoenix for Game 5 on Tuesday. Ayton, as we told you, has been big for the Suns in these playoffs, averaging 19 points, 13 rebounds while shooting 81% from the field. And that's pretty good any way you shape it. And there it is, your check on sports for you here on this Monday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you.
Thanks, Marcellus. Still to come, Greg is back with your extended forecast. Stay tuned.
Every new season of On the Record, we push the limits. Venture into unknown territory. We take our cameras into places unseen before. We share the stories and experiences that affect us all. And now it's time for Season 5. On the Record, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on RTV Cable Channel 212 and streaming live on Facebook on the R News Bahamas page.
Welcome back to our news. Looks like there may be more rain ahead. Greg is back in the Weather Center with the details.
Everybody for our second look at weather. Tropical moisture and the frontal boundary to the north, trapping that tropical moisture across our area. Showers and thunderstorms flaring up across the northwest and central portions of the Bahamas. We do have an upper level trough that's actually aiding in the showers and thunderstorms. All of this will remain in place and looks as though we are starting our rainy season, and we will continue to see some showers and thunderstorms throughout most of the week. Your boating forecast for the northwest, central, and southeast Bahamas, all areas. We have a caution flag posted tonight through tomorrow. The winds will be east to southeast, 15 to 20 knots. Seas running 4 to 6 feet over the ocean. Low tide was at 6:58 this evening. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Saturday. Look like some much needed rainfall is with us for the next couple of days. That's your look at weather. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Greg, and thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.